What's up everyone, it's Caddy with Money Investing Reads. This is a brand new channel. I wanted to create a place where I can share all the books that I'm personally reading from finance and investing and money and markets to also talk about philosophy, psychology, fiction, and even self-help books that's going to help you improve in not just investing, but in life in general. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. In our first episode, I'm going to break down the book called Learn Like a Pro from Barbara Oakley and Olav Shewe. So Learn Like a Pro is about learning how to become an effective learner. So by reading this book, you are really learning how to learn, which may seem like a crazy idea at first, but if you've ever struggled with learning new ideas or concepts or really memorizing your study material, then this book is definitely for you. Now, I wanted to share a summary of what this book is all about, and it's filled with really practical information and steps that we can use to really become effective learners, and this has significantly helped me improve my cognitive function and my learning potential. Now, I think we can all agree that we all learn in different ways. Some people learn by reading text, some people more visually by looking at images or videos, and some people learn by actually doing. But our learning doesn't actually become effective until we move that information to what's called our long-term memory. So Barbara and Olav talk about how our brain is broken down into two different parts. We've got a working memory and we've got a long-term memory. And it's only when we move information from our working memory to our long-term memory is when we solidify that information in our brain. So first we have the working memory, and it's also called temporary memory, which can only hold information for a very short period of time. And think of names of people or instructions from a video or text of a book that you may have read, and we don't retain everything that we see, do, or read, and that's because our working memory can only hold 3 to 4 pieces of information at a time. Whereas our long-term memory is our permanent memory, and this holds information that we have fed our brain over years of practice, learning, and experience. A simple example I can give you to differentiate between these two types of memories is when we first try to learn how to drive. At first, we are getting so much information is being thrown at us, from acceleration to braking to indicators to stop signs and different rules and regulations, that it becomes very, very overwhelming for our working memory to hold on to all those nuggets of information. But over time, with practice and repetition and really mastering each area of driving, it becomes part of our long-term memory, and soon enough, it becomes second nature. So now that we've established how we store information, let's talk about how we learn new things. So going back to our brain is like a huge web of neurons. And when we learn something new, we connect two neurons, which create the building blocks of our long-term memory called links. In this book, Learn Like a Pro by Barbara and Olav, they talk about 2 techniques on how to learn and create new links, and 4 practice techniques on how to make existing links stronger. Now, before we get there, I also want to talk about our state of mind, because our mind is in one of 2 states at all times. These are called focus mode and diffused mode. Now, focus mode is, as the name suggests, when our mind is intently focusing on a task. We're giving our undivided 100% attention to that thing, whether it's a concept or idea or a video or a lecture or a game or anything that we are doing at that time, and we are 100% focused with our attention. Now, to activate your focus mode, you can use a technique called Pomodoro technique, where you set a timer for 25 minutes, focus intently on your task, and then reward yourself with a 5-minute break. So for example, if I wanted to study for 2 hours, I can do 4 25-minute Pomodoros and reward myself with 5 minutes of break each time. Now, diffuse mode is when our mind is free. We're not focusing on anything specifically, but our learning and thinking is happening more on a subconscious level. When we exit focus mode, we enter the diffuse mode by doing a lot of the mundane tasks like ironing a t-shirt or taking a shower or taking a walk or washing the dishes. It's really, we don't realize it, but our mind is working in the background, just not in an active way, but more in a passive way. And that is exactly why some of the best ideas come up to us when we're taking a shower or taking a walk, and that's the diffuse mode doing its magic in the background. Now, this focus and diffuse state of mind can really work wonders if you are working on something challenging, or especially if you get stuck on something, whether it's a math problem or a writing assignment or even brainstorming ideas in a meeting at work. The best way to get past being stuck is to actually stop doing it Make sure that your diffused mode can work in the background, and when you return to the problem, I'm sure you'll have more creative ways on how to solve it. This is exactly why it's also recommended to start with your hard problems and challenging questions first, so you can activate that diffused mode as you exit your focus mode and come back later, a technique that's called hard start. And a quick side tip on how to enter your focus mode, and let's face it, we all procrastinate, right? We all want to push things to tomorrow that never actually comes. So this feeling of doing something that we don't want to do creates a very small discomfort in our mind, which is also known as the pain in the brain. So if you procrastinate going to the gym or starting that new book or even watching my videos, just remember that this temporary discomfort only lasts a few seconds. Once you're actually doing that thing, it subsides almost immediately, and this also correlates well with self-discipline, which we will talk about later in the video. Now we get to learning techniques, and there's 2 of them that will help us create new links. Now the authors share that there are 2 techniques in learning a new concept or an idea and creating new links, and these are declarative and procedural. Declarative learning is all about being conscious about what you're learning. In other words, you are declaring what you are learning. Now remember, this is different from the focused mode, because that is a state of mind, and declarative learning is a technique of learning new things. If you combine the focus mode, which is to pay 100% attention along with the declarative technique, your learning potential and retention will skyrocket. The other approach to learning is procedural learning, and this type of approach allows us to learn through a set of procedures which over time with repetition and practice become second nature. It's our job to figure out which learning technique is best for us, and you could also think of these 2 as learning by consuming or learning by actually doing. One example I can give you is that if I wanted to learn how to tie a shoelace, I can read up on how to tie a shoelace, or I can watch a video of somebody tying a shoelace. I will learn a little bit, but I will learn better if I actually start doing that myself. And if I wanted to learn more about physics or history or math or astronomy, declarative learning is far more efficient, as I can activate my focus mode and learn about those topics. In most cases, we are best to apply both learning techniques. First, declarative learning to learn the theory of it, and then procedural learning to actually understand the practical application. Once it becomes a procedure, our mind never forgets it. It becomes part of our long-term memory. Let's just go back to our example of driving a car. At first, we learn through declarative learning. We're trying to understand all the different pieces of driving, from braking, all the rules and regulations, turning, acceleration, indicators. But eventually, once it becomes a procedure, we know exactly what to do. Doesn't matter when we do it. Driving after a year, driving after 5 years, we know exactly how to drive a car. Once we have learned how to ride a bike and it becomes a procedure in our long-term memory, doesn't matter how long it is, we can always know how to ride a bike. And procedural learning, once it's part of the long-term memory, can also happen on a very subconscious level. Oftentimes, we'll find ourselves driving from work to home, and we are lost in thought, and we don't even realize that we are in fact driving in the right direction towards our home, and that is that procedural learning in action because it's part of our long-term memory. So now that we've discussed 2 techniques on how to learn new things and create new links, what about existing links? How do we make them stronger? How do we make them more useful? Barbara and Olav share 4 practice techniques on how to make your existing links stronger and make them more connected with each other. Now, these 4 practice techniques are elaboration, retrieval, interleaving, and meds. And not actual meds, but meds stands for meditation, exercise, diet, and sleep. And these are the 4 core things to make you healthy. And we know a healthy body leads to a healthy mind. Now, elaboration is a technique where you actively explain what you have learned to someone else or yourself in your own words. Science has shown time and time again that we retain 90% of what we teach to other people, as shown in this chart. You can see that 90% of what we teach to other people or even ourselves through elaboration is what we retain the most, as opposed to 10 to 20% that we learn from reading or attending a lecture. Now, the second technique to make your existing links even stronger is called interleaving. And this is a technique to compare and contrast between 2 different ideas or concepts to learn the differences between them. And it's so powerful because we don't just learn from the concept or the idea and what it's about, but we can also learn from what it is not. For example, if I wanted to learn the art styles of 10 different artists, I can look at a dozen paintings from artist 1, artist 2, artist 3, but instead, to make my learning even more effective, I can start interleaving between these artists and start comparing and contrasting between their art styles to learn their unique perspectives and differences. It develops our pattern recognition and allows us to deepen our understanding of various art styles by these artists. Finally, at the heart of active learning lies active recall, or also known as retrieval practice, which strengthens our links in our long-term memory. This practice allows you to retrieve information from your brain, hence the word retrieval or recall. And the idea is to really try hard to force yourself to try to remember something that you already know. It's not new information, it's not a new problem that you've never encountered, but instead it is just the process of trying to retrieve or recall actively something that you already know but just can't remember. This practice encourages your brain to dig deep and try to retrieve the information that we already possess so that we can make those links even stronger. Now look, learning requires a lot of self-discipline and control because in today's day and age with so many TikToks and Reels around us, learning how to control yourself and being self-disciplined can really improve your cognitive function. And this isn't just true with learning, but with everything in life. Following that balanced diet, right? Getting good sleep, following your workout plan, or reading every day, or even watching my videos, right? Self-discipline is what really guides us through life. And this book also teaches us how to forego temptations and distractions and also shows us how we can be more self-disciplined. And the best way to do that is by reducing the need for self-discipline in the first place. And that means making it as easy as possible to make the right choices. For example, if you want to limit or cut back on your consumption of sugary foods or sweets, instead of trying to control yourself and practicing self-discipline, don't buy them and keep them in your home in the first place. Research has shown that people who try to remove the distractions and temptations in the first place are far more successful than people who rely on self-discipline. So you can build better habits by becoming more productive while preserving self-discipline without having to use it. And this book also talks about how self-discipline can be a lot easier when you're motivated. And motivation is not about how much you want something, but it's really about how much effort you're willing to exert to get something. And we truly feel motivated when we try to find out the why behind everything that we do. So my recommendation to you is to try to figure out the true value behind what you're doing and what is the why behind what you're doing. Now, this book also shares a very neat technique of positive and negative contrasting to get us motivated. So I want to do this exercise with all of you. So what we're going to do is we're going to close our eyes and we're going to time travel 10 years into the future. What does your life look like? Who are you? Where do you work? Who are the people that you're surrounded with? Are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Now open your eyes. This visualization technique allows us to look at our life in a more positive light and really set those goals and work towards it. Now, this exercise of visualizing our life 10 years down the road in a more positive sense allows us to establish a life that we can work towards. That's called positive contrasting. Now, the opposite is also true. We can also do negative contrasting, which I find it to be a lot more effective. And that is simply when we close our eyes again, we time travel 10 years into the future, and only this time we think about things that we don't want to see for ourselves in the future. For example, I don't want to see myself obese or unhealthy in the future, which is exactly the reason why I try to work out, go to the gym, go work out, go play soccer, do something every single day so that I don't end up in that state in the future. And that's what keeps me motivated to keep working on myself. And you can motivate yourself by setting up long-term actionable goals using the SMART technique. Now, the book shares this really unique technique of SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, ambitious, realistic, and time limited. For example, I want to lose weight is not a goal. I want to lose 10 pounds in the next 30 days is a goal. And as the legend says, goals without a plan are wishes. Stop wishing and start taking action. And lastly, this book talks about metacognition. Now, metacognition does sound very, very fancy, but it's really just thinking about thinking. It's really the self-awareness and understanding your own thought process, which you can develop by talking to yourself, which I know may sound weird at first, but it can significantly help you develop your metacognition and help you focus on your 3 S's, which is self-regulate, self-monitor, and self-evaluate. So there you have it, the entire summary of Learn Like a Pro from Barbara Oakley and Olav Shewe. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I would highly recommend this book for anybody who is looking to learn more effective ways to learn. It's great for students, it's great for working professionals, and it's just a really well-rounded book with some very practical advice on how to become an effective learner. So I hope you all enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, make sure that you drop a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you all in the next video.